Hey guys, I'd like to welcome you to the Kortex Media Podcast, where we navigate the fast-paced world of automotive and more. I'm your host, Corson Schmidt. Here today, I have Bobby Williams. Bobby is a true entrepreneur and community builder, best known as the founder of Legacy Motorsports and BGW Construction in Indiana. With a background that spans English literature, education, and coaching football, Bobby's career journey isn't anything but ordinary. First, growing BGW Construction into one of Indiana's leading home renovation and remodeling companies, known for its creative design solutions and customer-focused approach. In 2017, Bobby founded Legacy Motorsports to fill a gap in the vintage and muscle car service market, offering expert restorations, repair, and performance upgrades for classic vehicles. His passion for craftsmanship, community, and innovation shines in both businesses, making Bobby a respected leader in home improvement and automotive circles alike. It's great to have you on, Bobby.
Yeah, I need you to follow me around and be my hype man. That was I didn't know that all that. I didn't know it was going to be that glorious. Thank you.
Hey, no worries.
Way bigger than what I would have said, but that's very kind of you, those words.
I got to make a good impact. I got to make sure people stay and listen to the podcast, so I got to make it sound good, right?
Absolutely.
So I kind of touched on your background there earlier in the introduction. And do you mind just giving us a little overview of how you made the transition from owning a construction company and now also running and owning the classic car automotive shop?
Yeah. So my construction company was a side hustle when I was a teacher. And as you said, I was a literature and composition teacher. I taught seniors at the local high school for almost 2 decades. And so when I left education in 2015 and I built my buildings, this is a small portion of my 2 buildings. I had space in a building where BGW was that really BGW didn't need, but I didn't want to share it with anybody, right? So I had some friends in the industry. We're on the west side of Indianapolis. There's a huge culture here for, with the race, and Lucas Oil Raceway Park is 15 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. And I've always, my family, my grandfather owned a business here locally, and they used to be, he had a franchise in Speedway, which was right next to the track. So growing up, I was always around race cars and that stuff. And so I've always loved cars. And anybody in this automotive industry, we recognize that we're just not training the next generation to work on carbureted engines, right?
Yeah.
We're just not, and that's okay. Nobody's mad about it. It's a dying art. And so there's a hole in that market. And I had some friends that had cars and they wanted to work on. I have my lead mechanic at Legacy is a former high school friend. He was a paratrooper, so he went away and served in Iraq and Afghanistan for years. And then when he came back, he was wanting to turn a wrench. So we started Legacy Motorsports. And it started out very small, and it's grown over the last, we started in like 2017. And it's grown pretty well. And, it's not as big as BGW by design, because there's not as many. Everybody in town has a car that's a modern car that you plug in, your computer, and it tells you what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
So not as many people have an old car that requires a little bit more of an understanding of the diagnostics that goes into a vintage vehicle built pre-1980. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that's perfect. And before we really dive into things, do you mind giving the audience a little bit of a rundown on what it is that you'll see going in and out of the shop and what you guys do in the shop?
Yeah. So we essentially only like to work on cars pre-1980.
Okay.
Unless there are performance enhancements. For example, we've got a 2002 Dodge Dakota. It's a short bed 2-door, and he wanted to do a Hemi swap with it. We've been doing a lot of swaps, whether it's a Coyote swap if it's a Ford on an old Mustang, or an LS swap. Those have been very popular for years on a Chevy or a Mopar, and then also Hemi swaps in the Mopars as well. We've got a 67 Barracuda, big window in the back. It's beautiful, and we're doing a Hemi swap in that as well. It's a pretty big engine. And so, but essentially, if you were to walk through our shop right now, you'd see a 1956 F100 that we're putting a Coyote engine that came out of a GT Mustang in. So we're improving that, right, bringing up to modern day specs. But then right next to that, you'll see I think it's a 71 or 72 Torino, not a Gran Torino. Everybody knows that from the movie, but it's a Torino. It's really very cool. And we put, I think it's a 390, so it's an old school engine. But in that one, he wanted a fuel injected carburetor, which anybody who's familiar, Ollie's doing that, and a number of others. So we've gotten pretty good at installing modern day fuel injection carburetors on those old engines. So
for sure.
Then we've got a couple. We've built from the ground up Cobras. We don't like to use the word kit car, but that's what they are. They're vintage. They come from Factory 5 is where we built them, which is a fantastic kit. And so we've built 3 or 4 of those in the last few years. And
that's cool.
Some of them we put a Coyote in, the one that we built, but for me, and then I sold it this last spring, had a 351 Windsor stroker, stroked out, I think it was 406. And we've got an actual old school 8-stack on it. So
that's cool.
It's pretty doggone fast. I wish I wouldn't have sold it. It's irresponsible.
With that Factory 5 kit that you were talking about, does that come with everything you need to put the car together, from frame to body, other than engine specs? It comes with all suspension and everything as well?
Yeah, it comes. So they have a couple different ways that you can build it. Their Factory 5 kind of in the industry has a good solid name, but they market to the DIYer. So you can buy the chassis without the drivetrain for like $35,000 or $36,000. You can buy a reduced kit of the chassis where it doesn't come with the suspension. And what they've designed it for is to get like a 90s Fox body Mustang, and then you can part swap it with their frame. It'll all work. And ideally, the idea is that you save money. We do it all new parts, and we try to build it as authentic to the Carroll Shelby's 1960s Cobras, whether it's a 427 or a 289. I built a couple Daytona coupes; those are gorgeous, and so yeah, you can buy the drivetrain. We've done blueprint engines. We've rebuilt our own engines if we have them, and we've put Coyote engines in there. So you can you can probably, if you do all the work yourself, you can probably spend 45 or 50 if you did a lot of the work yourself. The ones that we do for customers, we land in that 80 to 110 range, depending on what you put in it. If you put a Coyote engine with a modern drivetrain, and you want heated and cooled seats and carbon fiber dash and all the bells and whistles, then you're going to be 110. If you build it like it should be built, in my opinion, with an old school engine that's just nasty and salty and loud, no radio because your side pipes are the radio, you're going to spend 75, 80.
Okay, cool. I was just wondering for my own adventures in the future. What has been one of your favorite projects to date?
Oh, that Cobra that we built last year was a lot of fun. Mostly because I got to drive it at the track and scare my wife with it. I kind of fall in love with people and the stories, right?
For sure.
That's why, I was, maybe you can't tell by my face and my vocation now, but being a literature guy, I just like the stories, and every car has a story. One of my favorite stories was 2.5 years ago. we had a young man, probably a little bit younger than me, so in his 40s, come in, and his dad, 69 RS Camaro convertible. And he bought it new in 1968 and had it built. And this old guy, he was in his 90s, he had taken it to have it sort of brought back to life in the 90s, and he kind of had a bad experience with the shop, which happens in our industry. It happens in the construction industry. For sure. Especially now where you have these old school shops, you don't know, are they shade tree mechanics, or are they people that know what they're doing? You know, are they professionals, or are they guys that just kind of grew up with a wrench in their hand? And not that there's anything wrong with that, but there's a business acumen that comes into it. So anyway, he had a bad experience, so he just got frustrated, and he shoved it in a small little garage behind his house and didn't touch it. So that was in the 90s. So almost 30 years later, his son said, "Hey, my dad's really sick. I want to finish this car for him." So he brought it in, and all new suspension. The body was great. There's no rust. We just sort of polished it and made it look good, but we rebuilt the engine, redid the whole interior, the convertible thing we put. That's awesome. I don't know how much he spent, but when we got it done, throughout that experience, the old man would come in, and he was always just coming in with his cane, and I don't know if you can see my face, but he was, well, those not looking, I've just got an angry face. He was just always pissed and didn't really trust, right? So he was constantly coming in and asking questions and very gruff. Well, when we got it done, we took it to World of Wheels in Indianapolis, which at that time was still the biggest indoor car show in Indiana. And it won first prize. And we got him tickets to come, and he came. And when he saw it for the first time, that's when he saw it under the lights, and everything was perfect. And the dude started crying, and he put his arm around me. And you could see, I've got a picture. I can't show it to you, obviously, but I've got a picture where you can see the startings of a smirk on one side of his face. But that's probably my favorite story. And I love Camaros. I love all the cars. Probably a Ford guy, but I love Camaros, but that story will always mean a lot to me.
No, that's awesome. That's got to be one of the biggest thing of being running a company like this, right? Is the reaction after you're done finishing up that build, the reaction of the customer, showing their new baby, basically, because a lot of people take a lot of pride in their vehicles, right?
That's so true.
It's definitely one of the best parts about building something like that is the story behind it. And then seeing their reaction once it's finished up. That'd be priceless.
Yeah, it's definitely, and I could fill your whole show up with those stories.
That's awesome. Well, maybe we'll dive into another one later. But so when you first started Legacy Motorsports, you kind of saw a gap in the classic car service market, right? What challenges did you face getting Legacy Motorsports off the ground, and how did you overcome some of those challenges?
That's a really good question. The two biggest challenges were, number one, because of the way I introduced Legacy was as if Dave Brangard, my high school buddy, came in at the beginning, and he did not. He had, I guess, a competition shop in the same area, but in the same town, but he wasn't doing exactly what we were doing, and it was just a one-man show, so he wasn't very busy always, right? And he couldn't take on big things. So the first few years, I really struggled finding competent mechanics that could diagnose and treat my customers well, steer them in the correct direction. And that was hard. And so that was one of them. The other biggest challenge, and it's still a challenge, is you either have older customers, and I'm 50, but you either have older customers in their 60s and older that have an old car that they want to get done, and they are still operating on pricing from 1987.
Yeah.
And they still live in a world where you can go to Napa or whatever it was back then and get the parts off the shelf. And we just don't live in that world anymore. The pricing is a lot more on these old cars than it ever used to be.
For sure.
Or you have younger people that they're used to going to their automotive shop, and there's a program there, right, that tells them, okay, you want your water pump needs to be replaced. It's going to be this many hours and it's going to cost this much. So they give you a fixed price, and you know it's going to cost you $1,000 or whatever that is, and you're in and out. That is not the case in this. Everything is time and material, and you don't know. And a lot of these cars, they come in and they're Frankensteins. And,
Yeah.
you know, we had a Fox body Mustang we worked on a few years ago, and we just couldn't find the right part for it. I think it was a water pump. And as it turns out, we realized that at some point in this thing's life, someone had taken the engine out of an F-150 and put it in this car. And once we realized that, we were able to easily, but the customer didn't know that, you know, I mean, so
Yeah.
it's everything takes longer, and so it's more expensive. And so that's a challenging conversation to have with people, that I can't tell you how long it's going to take, but I also can't tell you how much it's going to cost, but we're going to do it right, you know, and that's challenging.
No, for sure. That was kind of going to lead me into my next question, is how do you kind of educate that customer about the restoration process and help them make the best choices for their vehicle? And how do you dial in exactly what they're looking for? Because they can give you a vision, but their head might be different than what you're visioning. And how do you kind of balance that to get exactly what the customer is looking for?
So the good news for us in that question is we don't do paint and body. We farm that. So
Okay.
a lot of those visual design issues that happen with color and fitment, those go to somebody else.
Yeah.
Everything we do is mechanically minded. And so we try to walk that balance of the highest quality of material and that sort of old school heart with modern performance, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that makes that part of the conversation a lot easier. Do they want a RestoMod where they don't care about original parts and numbers, right? Numbers matching, or do they want a numbers matching car?
Yeah.
And once you answer that question, then each one leads you down. Okay, here's the next question. And budget is always a challenge. Anybody who's a business owner, you know, you got to please people with three different ways: the price, the budget, the schedule, and the quality of work. The only thing we can really control is quality of work. So it's going to cost what it's going to cost. And we have an hourly rate that we post on our wall, and we audit and keep track of our hours. So I educate our clients about how we do that. And we only charge them for billable hours when we're working on your car. And occasionally we have an issue with that, but honestly, it hasn't been a problem. We get a lot of sticker shock, but we don't get a lot of pushback because the quality's there. And that's what they want, is they want to depend on.
For sure. And yeah, like you said earlier, with inflation and everything, the prices are going to be pretty expensive to get a car done. But if you look at it at the end of the day, that car is going to be worth a hell of a lot more than when it came into the shop as well.
Usually, it depends on how they bought it, right?
Fair enough.
We had a guy buy, this is another funny story. He bought a Mystery Machine van, if you are a Scooby-Doo fan. And it was a cool looking van. It looked like the Mystery Machine it wasn't the right, because the true Mystery Machine was a VW. This one was Chevy. And I think based on the paint that we found underneath, at some point in its life, it was also the A-Team van, which would have made more sense. But somebody had made it it had like blue shag carpet on the inside and like a crystal ball. I mean, it was crazy. Well, that guy way overpaid for this at auction because his family wanted it and he got it. And then it needed a whole driveway train swap and a whole wiring harness. And he was like $25,000 in it after paying for it because that's what it needed. And he wasn't angry at us. He was just frustrated. And he said, I'll never get that out of this truck. And I said, brother, have you ever been to a car show? The only person at a car show that is upside right on their car, they can sell their car and make money, is the 95-year-old dude in a cane. And it's because he built it himself 30 years ago, and it's finally coming around. You don't do this to make money. You do it because you love the smell, you love the feel of a manual transmission, and that's why you do it, because you love the car, not because you love money.
For sure. Yeah, I guess the product you get at the end it's priceless, right? It's worth more than anything. Just like the reaction that you guys get when you give them that vehicle.
Absolutely.
How do you balance your time and energy between two successful businesses?
That is a very young person question. I love that. You're asking me a life balance question, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm gonna answer that in good faith, because I know where you're going with this. But I think life balance has become a little bit overplayed in our culture here recently. I'm a man of faith, and balance is not a biblical concept,
Yeah.
But life rhythms, and sometimes you have a rhythm of great stress and a season of where you're doing a lot of work, right? And but you also need to bring that rhythm back to have peace in your life and make sure you pour into your family. My wife and I have been married for 30 years.
Amazing.
It'll be 30 years in a little bit, and we've got 4 kids, and I'm happily married. I think she's happily married, but she's beautiful. She could totally leave me if she wasn't. So, but I would say the way that I do that is when I left education, it was largely because my rhythms were all screwed up. I was teaching, I was coaching varsity football, and I had a side hustle business that was starting to get pretty successful. So I was working 7 days a week, and I didn't have time for the rhythm of the family.
Yeah.
So when I gave that up and decided to do one thing, and that was focus on BGW, which then led to building my buildings. So then that led to a commercial park, which then led to Legacy Motorsports. I've held true to, I never work Sundays anymore, and we're not open on Saturdays. And if you want to do that, then just give yourself permission to do that and figure it out. If you don't work for yourself like I do, then maybe you need to get a job that will allow for that. And maybe you have to make sacrifices to not live, outside of your means to do that. So it's just a deliberate attempt to make sure, but I probably have 60 or 70 hours at the end of a Friday. But then my weekends are for my family.
For sure. No, that's amazing. That's what a lot of people want, right? That's why you have the entrepreneur who's always working versus just a 9-to-5 job. It helps you save some of that free time for your family and put towards time that you really need at the end of the week, right? But on the weekends and whatnot.
Well, and let me say this too, because nobody should ever say, I want to own my own business so that I can work less. If you say that, then you're retarded.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I can say that word. I probably shouldn't say that. I'll say it again. If you say that, this is for the edit for YouTube, right? If you say that you're going to work, that you want to be an entrepreneur, own your own business so that you don't have to work as much, then you're making a foolish decision, because you're going to work a lot more if you own your business. I'm the first one to show up, and I'm the last one to leave. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that. That's part of what I signed up for, And I don't pay myself by the hour. I pay myself the salary. But you're going to be constantly thinking about it. You're going to constantly, it's an obsession that you have to temper, like anything else, like video games or whatever else that you do. That's just my vice, is I'm a workaholic. And so I have to check that vice.
For sure. No, that's some great advice, right? If you're running a business, you're always going to be busy with it. You're always going to be thinking about it, right? What piece of advice did you receive early in your career that kind of still guides you?
So my father and grandfather and great-grandfather, I'm a very blessed man. I was able to get, I was able to I was able to have all three of them in my life for a significant amount of time. My dad is still alive. My grandfather and great grandfather are gone, but and they were entrepreneurs at different times of their life, and so they poured into me a lot of advice. And I would say, figure out what your true north is. Who are you? What is your true north? What kind of character you do want to have, and be obsessive about staying pointed in that direction.
That's great. No, that's awesome. That's perfect. What does a typical day look like for you balancing two businesses together? I know I kind of touched on that earlier, but just what does a typical day look like? Just for people that want to maybe step into the entrepreneurial world and they have one business going right now and they're thinking of starting another. What does a typical day look like in that sense?
When I learned the value of hiring people of high character and talent, that allowed me to not have to micromanage and be down in the nitty-gritty of everything. And I have two companies that live in that world. And so Legacy Motorsports, I might touch base with every other day. And everybody reports to me. I need to know 20% of what everybody's doing, right, in both companies. BGW Construction grosses about $3 million a year. Legacy Motorsports nets or grosses what BGW nets. It's like, 400,000 or 500,000. It's not a great deal, right, in comparison. But they're both businesses that have people that depend on getting a paycheck every week, right? And so I have metrics and expectations of communication. And so there's that word again, right? Rhythm. So there's a rhythm of communication. So long as everybody, my direct reports, which I have one at Legacy, and I've got 3 at BGW Construction, maybe 4. But so long as I'm getting the information that I've delivered to them that I need to get, then they don't really have a need to see me very much.
Fair enough.
And so long as they're communicating to me, but it's all begins with this foundation. You see the tip of the iceberg, but underneath that is a system and process and an engine that's been built so that I know, okay, if these metrics are okay, then the business is healthy. When 1 or 2 of those dip down, then I've got to go get involved and ask questions and try to direct and help. So I'm a problem solver now. And I'm a trainer, right? I try to lead my people to lead. I want my people to feel like they own their own job. And whenever you empower them to know what they're supposed to do and what success looks like, it's amazing the lack of management that is required in that world.
For sure. And then again, it comes all down to the team, right? And you have to have a solid team behind you for that. And how do you foster such a positive work environment around your teams to really impact the lives of your team and really keep them happy and coming to work every day?
Well, you're assuming they love coming to work. I think they do. But yeah, we all try to be friendly. I mean, I foster that. I think, again, it's about that obsession towards transparency. Completely transparent. This is where we are. I was a football coach, as you know, for all of those years. And when every Friday night, your success as a coach, player, is being judged by 5,000 local people who are all too happy to tell you what an idiot you are and how you don't know what you're doing, is every opportunity they get. You kind of learn that you can't hide and disappear. The best thing is to, that if a freaking 16, 17-year-old kid that's playing safety can live with the pressure of messing up, and everybody in the stands knows that they just messed up and the pass was caught beyond them and it was a 70-yard touchdown and it's his fault. If that kid can live with that pressure and walk off like a man and say, I know what I did, it's not going to happen again, then adults that work for me can live in that world. We all know what we're responsible for, and it's that clarity of purpose. And so long as everybody knows what their role is, and people aren't stepping on each other's toes, and everybody knows if something fails, it's not pointing a finger. It's not so we can play the gotcha game. It's so that we can very quickly identify how we need to fix it. And so having people that are humble, people that are unafraid, they're not defensive, they're unafraid of criticism, and they embrace the pressure of owning their little piece of the pie. And I think that transparency creates a work environment where we're all in it together.
For sure. That's amazing. I love how you pull everyone together and make sure everyone's transparent, make sure everyone knows their job and knows their role, so you guys can roll out as a team, right? It's one of the biggest things.
Trust me, I've had to go through a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't want to live in that world, and that's okay. We don't have to get paid. We can have a healthy conversation about your next best opportunity. It's not here because it's not necessarily for everybody. But the people that have been with me for a long time. So
that's awesome. That's good to hear. It's nice that you have a good community around you, helping you build the companies out to a solid foundation and a good reputation like you guys have in both companies. With classic vehicles starting to become more demand, like harder to find, they're becoming more rare. You're starting to see younger generation come up, and they sometimes maybe don't want to take over their parents' or grandparents' projects. Are you seeing less and less of a demand for RestoMod restoration service work, or is it still sticking around?
I mean, maybe because my area, but it's still very strong. I think even younger people, there's a smell that an old car has that reminds them of growing up.
For sure.
And I do think one of the things I love about the younger generation, I'm an X-Gener, but one of the things I love about the millennial generation and even Generation Y, I don't know what all those people that are in that 30 to 40 year old range, and even in my construction company, that generation is more educated than anybody's generation was before that. And but the trades were not celebrated to them, right? So for 2 generations, for 25 or 30 years, we've arbitraged the trades out of education. Everybody's supposed to go to college. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be a contractor. You don't want to be an electrician. You don't want to be a plumber. And so now you've got this vacuum of skills, these younger age groups, but there's an appreciation because I think it's mysterious, and they love seeing something old become useful. That's why record players are coming back, if you pay any attention, right? And so, and it's like that across the board. I mean, mid-century modern, which was the ugliest 1970s and 80s, but that's really coming back right now.
And I'm even finding
myself liking it. Yeah, people love that stuff. And so it's the same thing in the car culture. The question is it a RestoMod? What I'm seeing, and even in the values of cars, whereas 5 or 6 years ago, the value of a numbers matching all original 60s era Mustang or Camaro or whatever, those were valued a lot higher at auction. And the RestoMods, that's a flip. Because now what you have is young people that want, and I'm the same way. I like both. I find something to like about both. But they want the look of the old car. They want the John Wick car, but they don't want to have to mess with the carburetor in December because you're constantly having to adjust it. And they don't know how to adjust it. So they want something that's going to be dependable. So we put a modern day engine in it, and it looks awesome. So
for sure.
So I'm not seeing a dip in that at all. We're busier today than we were 8 years ago.
For sure. No, that's awesome. I'm a huge classic muscle car fan, and I'd love to get my hands on one, but the prices keep getting higher and higher every single year, and they keep getting harder and harder to find, right? Because people are starting to hold on to them.
That is true. Yeah.
But
or they're being destroyed. What's your favorite car, Corson?
Classic muscle?
Yeah, if you could get a car that was going to be in your garage, what would it be? I love these conversations.
It's a good question because
you didn't have to worry about money.
I'm a big European guy. Like, I love the Volkswagens, and my dad has an '84 Rabbit that he did up, Rabbit GTI that he did up. But
oh wow!
If I had to choose one car that I've always wanted, I'll give you my European pick, and I'll give you my muscle car American muscle pick. So if I could pick one, it'd probably be a Volkswagen Corrado. That would be my European pick because they're just classic. They just look great. I don't know what it is about them. If I had to choose a muscle car, it'd have to be a '69 Camaro. There's something about the '69 Camaro that just, it's beautiful.
Hard top or soft top?
Hard top.
So I've got a Volkswagen Rabbit story. There's a guy here locally that I've done a bunch of work on his house, and he has an old house. It's got a great story, but he collects like obscure Volkswagens and Porsches. And I am not a foreign car guy. My son-in-law, my daughter's husband, he loves Audis and Porsches and stuff. I know them, but not like I know American domestic cars.
For sure.
He has a I think it's an 87 diesel convertible Rabbit that has it's a turbo diesel.
That's pretty cool.
Very rare. It's like the only one of two in North America, he tells me. And I was really intrigued by that car because of the engine, a turbo diesel Rabbit. So I love things about all the cars. So but the 69 Camaro, hard to beat that.
No, you can't beat a '69 Camaro. I'm a fan of all the muscle cars. If I could get my hands on one, it'd definitely be a '69 Camaro. But if I could have a chance to get any something about the 68, 69 year, 70 year, they kind of just made the most beautiful cars. We need to get back to that, number one. So we need to get back to nice looking cars. But the manufacturers just seem to they seem to just make them the same, and they look more modern every time you look at them.
Can I tell you a story about a 68 Camaro?
Yeah, go ahead.
So David Brandgard, our lead mechanic, as I said, he was a paratrooper, and in the late 90s, he was overseas. He was in Germany, stationed in Germany. And he would walk across during his lunch. There was an auto shop, and it was literally called Autos. So OTTO was the guy's name. And he would go in there and practice his German, and they would work on cars, and he would just watch them because he was a paratrooper, but he was also a helicopter mechanic. You had two different things whenever. So anyway, he's over there, and I've got this picture. He noticed in the back of it there was a car that had an old car cover on it, and all you could see was one of the lights on the front. And so David looked at Otto, and he said, "Hey, is that a '68 Camaro?" Because that was his dream car. And he goes, "Yeah, how did you know that?" He said, "Well, I can tell by because you know what the lights look like on those, right?"
Yeah.
And so he peeled it off, and it was this red '68 Camaro SS. And he said, "Is this all original?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm putting it back together right now." And he goes, so anyway, he worked out and he bought this thing for like, I don't want to say, but it was for today's money, it was a lot of money back then, but for today's money, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Brings it back to America, running and driving. But it's a red car with a black interior, and he takes it to a car show. And he gets murdered by these guys that are just, that's not all original. There's no way, because in '68, they didn't make it. I'm going to butcher this. I wish Dave was here. But he had a 327, is that right? What was a Chevy? 328? The engine that was in that, they did not make a '68 SS Camaro with that engine. Okay. But David was like, well, he goes, I've got all the paperwork here. I think it was, but he's a real passive guy, sweetheart. I mean, a gosh darn freaking war hero that has killed people, but he didn't want to argue, right? So for years, he just didn't take it to car shows. And then one year he just he's like, I'm going to call the Chevy archivist. And he spends like 2 hours on the phone with this guy. And he's like crawling all over, give me this number. Go check this solenoid. Does it have this? And the guy says to him, you're not going to believe this, but there were 6 cars shipped to Europe that had that engine in it. that were SS, and that's one of those six. They were supposed to be destroyed. So he has this gem of an original 68 SS Camaro with an obscure engine that should not be there, right? And it's all original, certified now by Chevy Archives.
Wow.
And he went and got the numbers on it, and he brought it back because the original color was not red. It was army green. So he brought
No
it
way.
back, completely restored it all to the original. And the car is in his garage right now. And
That's cool.
It's a great story. Yep.
That's awesome. That's a great story. And that's the thing, right? You go to Europe, you're going to see a lot of American vehicles, but they're built differently. Like if you go to, I was in Ireland about a month ago, and you'll see a lot of the Volkswagens, Audis, but they're all diesel because that's the main fuel system there. And even the newer vehicles are all diesel. And you come to North America, all the exact same car but with a gas engine. You can't get in the diesel in North America. So it's cool the variations that you see within different continents and the different engines that they have, and then the different body styles as well. They have a little bit different of bumper packages and interior packages too, which is really cool.
Oh yeah. I've been to Northern Ireland, and there's a lot of Fords there. I couldn't believe I'd see Ford Raptors there in Northern Ireland.
I never saw a Ford Raptor, but
I saw two of them there.
Yeah, that would be crazy because their pickup trucks is a Ford. That's the biggest truck they have is a Ford Ranger, and the roads are tiny. It's, right. It's crazy.
Yeah,
but we ended up going to a car show on the one day at one of the ports. Every Sunday they have a little get together car show kind of thing, and it must have been a special meet because there was, kid you not, 30 Vauxhalls. I don't know if you've heard of Vauxhall.
No.
But I never did either until I showed up to this car show, and they're like, and we roll in. I just went with my girlfriend's family's from there, so I went with one of her cousins. And they're like, oh, it must be a Vauxhall meet. And I'm like, I've never heard of these things, but they're the coolest looking car there is. I don't know what year they were or what model, but if you look up a Vauxhall, I'm assuming they'd be an 80s car. It was they're beautiful. Vauxhall. I don't want to butcher it.
Yeah, I'll look that up. I love cars, man.
I think that's right.
Cars.
But yeah, look those up. They're pretty cool cars. So once I saw that and came back to where we were staying, I did a little bit of research, see if I could find any, and I couldn't find any in North America. I'm like, oh, darn it. But it's cool. The different car cultures around the world is really cool. And then you go to Japan, you see all the JDM. And if you brought a Mustang there, they'd be like, what the heck? Because they don't get them, right? Or if you see like a JDM, like a GTR and RX-7 anywhere in North America, it's like, holy crap, it's totally different. It's so funny.
When I was growing up, we used to take one of my buddies lived on a farm, and they had a 79 F250 with a 460 engine on it, and it was ballsy, man. It was so fast. And we used to take that to the track. Back then it was called IRP, Indianapolis Raceway Park. Now it's called Lucas Oil. We used to take it to the track, and we would race what we called the rice burners, because in the early 90s, that's what everybody was like. The kind of popular car was like the Honda Civics and the Accords with the hatchback and stuff like that. And they'd put the turbos on. It was a little bit before that, but and I'll tell you what, that old truck would win more than it would lose. And
that's awesome.
But we'd have, and I now have a 77 Ford F-150 that has a 250 suspension on it, all original, and a 460 engine in it. And I love that truck. It's it's all original, beautiful, gorgeous. It's got a camper shell on it. And it's probably when we have car meets, more people will talk about that truck because they had an uncle that had one just like it. It's a gorgeous truck.
Everyone had those, the 73 to 79 F-150, F-250. Everyone had one. My dad has a 78 that he did up 30 or 40 years ago. It sat in a shed forever. We got it out a couple of years ago, actually, with the 351 in it. But my grandfather had a 79. It was the farm truck, the one-wheel drive farm truck that they used for everything. But I ended up acquiring it. I don't know. 8 years ago, just when they moved into kind of an old age home. And it's sat around the farm, and I've been meaning to work on it. But that's now my next project is going to be the 78 old farm truck and get it back to life.
Those simple engines, man. They're simple things to work on.
Yeah, for sure. That's my next project. But it needs a bit of work, but I got the box off, cab's coming off, and then I'm going to pull the engine, do a full blast to the frame, get that painted up and build it from the ground up, because it's something that it means like, just going back to stories, right, of building vehicles. It means a lot. Some vehicles mean a lot to people, and they'll do anything to get it back to looking nice and drivable, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the goals that you have for Legacy Motorsports in the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, I want to keep plugging away, I guess. I mean, I really enjoy doing what we're doing. I have a long-term project that's a 56 F100 that has a Coyote engine in it. And we call it the Boss because it's yellow. And I put a Boss 302 kit, intake kit on that Coyote. I want to finish that, and I kind of have an open invitation to go to, if I ever get that done, to go to, what is it down there in Vegas? What's the big?
The SEMA show?
Yeah, SEMA show. Yeah. And I would like to do that, and I think that would mean a lot to my team there, but we just can't, like they say, a plumber's toilet's always full. You know, a cobbler's kids are always barefoot. A mechanic's car is always needs to be worked on, and mine is, it keeps getting pushed back because we've got customers that we got to work on. So that's probably my biggest goal, is to finish that.
That's cool. That's awesome. If you could go back to when you first became an entrepreneur, what advice would you have given yourself today?
Oh gosh.
We'll move on to this one. What are some of the most important lessons you've learned, and what advice would you give to a young entrepreneur wanting to either get into the automotive space or the construction space?
I think I would give myself the advice of trusting your instincts. Early on, especially in Legacy Motorsports, with my construction company, I'm a carpenter. I was always very competent. Even though I was a teacher, I was always had a saw in my hand. But when it came to the mechanics industry and Legacy Motorsports, I don't want to say it was a lack of confidence, but there was a little bit of overthinking, paralysis by analysis early on. And so, you know, you can't be seduced by the idea that you're going to have your dream job, because no matter what you do, no matter how glorious and sexy it sounds, it's going to become work.
Yeah.
It's going to become work. And so I would say, you know, trust your instincts, trust but verify people. I've had, you know, I'm because I trust people more. Sometimes I've been disappointed, and I think I should have early on had this concept of organization where everything's transparent and everybody has a responsibility and everybody knows what they're supposed to do. I wish I would have done that earlier, but I also don't know that I would have had I think it took experience to recognize what those lanes should look like. So.
For sure. That's some great advice. And I really hope this episode finds some people that can use some entrepreneur advice, or just even some advice in life, and in the workplace, because you've spoke a lot about it, and I really hope it finds some people and resonates with some people. Before we end the show, where can people find you on your LinkedIn, your website, social medias?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram with Legacy Motorsports, and BGW Construction is on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. It's all the same. It's pretty easy to find our websites. It's legacymotorsports.com. BGW Construction LLC.com. But yeah, you can, the Legacy Motorsports stuff is probably what your audience would want to see. And we do have a YouTube page, but I probably need to do a better job with that. LinkedIn is the same. We've got Legacy Motorsports and BGW Construction LinkedIn, and I'm Bobby Williams is my LinkedIn profile.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking your time today, Bobby. That was a great conversation. I love hearing about the projects you guys have in the shop and some of the project that you guys have been through working along. And it's great speaking with you, getting your experience in entrepreneurship and business. And I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, it was enjoyable. It was good to meet you, Corson, and good luck to everybody listening, and Godspeed to everyone.
Thank you.